Sam, and may I once again reiterate just how marvellous it is to be asked back to contribute to this wonderful show's reportage. You are truly a wise and benevolent benefactor to the important cause of impartial media coverage. As an out and proud member of the true blue Conservative family, it means a lot to us to be allowed a platform from which we may stand our ground against the constant misinformation of the violent left. It's been a typically disingenuous week with regard to the government's glorious achievements, and the response to Mr. Hancock's announcement was no different. Public Health England is to be dissolved like so much common aspirin and reconstituted into a strong new body under the noble and capable leadership of Baroness Dido Harding. Daddy, be careful, please. Not in the mouth right now. I'm trying to work here. The feverish response from the panicky little commies who wouldn't recognise the government pivoting to respond to a crisis if it snuck up behind them and seized their means of production has been bothersomely predictable. I can practically hear their bleating from here. This is an obvious attempt to scapegoat Public Health England for the government's own failures. Dido Harding is an unelected and unqualified bureaucrat who not only oversaw the complete failure of the National Test and Trace programme, she was also a disaster when she worked for TalkTalk. This is yet another move away from local expertise that has been demonstrably more effective at contact tracing to an overly opaque, inefficient and centralised system held by political appointees with no relevant expertise. Well, blah, blah, bloody blah. It goes without saying that these complaints are absolute piffle. I, like the government and Mr. Hancock himself, who is a handsome and capable gentleman whose hands are absolutely not drenched in the blood of thousands, have full faith in Miss Harding. Who better to understand just how Public Health England have failed than a woman who has experienced so much failure firsthand? Who better to have the courage to change tack and be responsive to a crisis than a woman whose initial courses of action were so horrendously misguided that they've now been junked completely? Who could possibly be more qualified to lead this new service and reinvigorate the passions and work ethic of Public Health England's former staff than the very woman who ignored their expertise entirely in favour of shunting the responsibility for testing and tracing onto ineffective private companies like Serco? Oh, Daddy, that tickles. You are naughty. It's becoming increasingly obvious that this government is going to find it difficult in future to ever appoint their chums from school to lofty and well-paid bureaucratic positions without hippies and socialists getting into a right tiz about it. That's absolutely shameful, and the suggestion that jobs like chair of the new National Institute for Health Protection ought to go to qualified professionals is just the left's hypocrisy in action. Where's the social mobility they love so much in the idea that you should have medical experience to helm a country's response to a pandemic? Why should amateur jockeys and baronesses who oversaw the biggest data leak and resultant fine in TalkTalk's history miss out on opportunities like that? Oh, what's that, the left? Cat got your tongue? Course it has. Check and mate, you absolute rotters. It is absolutely unforgivable that our wonderful government continues to receive no appreciation from an ungrateful public for its openness and accountability. Just 5 minutes ago, all the plebs wanted a public inquiry and someone to blame. Well, now the government has given them the whole of Public Health England before we've even had that inquiry, and they're still not satisfied. For goodness sake, Britain, what more could you want than an expensive and disruptive organisational reshuffle of our entire pandemic response in the middle of a national crisis? An efficient, functional test and trace programme that allows us to ease out of lockdown Don't be fucking daft. You don't solve a problem by striving to achieve its well-established solutions. You solve it by scapegoating the nearest possible dysfunctional quango and then appointing the woman who actually made all the mistakes you're blaming it for to head up its replacement. Let's just drop the negativity, shall we? I'm sure this new initiative, like everything Mr. Hancock and Dido Harding have done over the past few months, will be a roaring success. I'm Sebastian Forelock, naked and buried in the dirt in Dominic Cummings' garden, with just his face and honey-coated genitals exposed to the elements, reporting for IC News. Ooh, that tickles, Daddy. What are those? They're awfully large for fire ants, Daddy. Where on earth did you import them from? Oh, God. Ah! Oh, the many stinging pincers of fate. Ah! I know my place, Daddy. I know my place. Oh!